Welcome to Video Game X Domain. I'm your host, Charles, Team Bring It Reed. And today we're actually going to be doing a video on my PlayStation 1 collection, PS1 as you would like to call it as well. Now I know most people kind of go over their collections like this and scan through them, which is cool, which is fine. But with me, I'm actually going to be pulling these games out and showing the artwork as well. So let's start off with Army Men 3D. Such a classic game in my eyes. This is one of my favorite games on the PlayStation 1. Me and my friend Thomas would play this all the time with the multiplayer. Such a fun game. Another split-screen multiplayer classic in my eyes. To me, that game will never get old on multiplayer. Oh, Crash Bandicoot, the original. Got to love the original Crash Bandicoot. I think I enjoyed this a little bit better than Mario 64. And I know some fans are going to be like, you're nuts. Crash Bandicoot is good, but it's nowhere near as good as Mario 64. Well, you know what? I kind of like the original Crash Bandicoot. I think it's a funner game than Mario 64. But Mario 64 was phenomenal, but that's another story. Crash Bash. Always a fun game. I mean, it's basically like a Crash Bandicoot version of Mario Party. There was a lot of fun mini-games on here. It was made by Eurocom and Sony Computer Entertainment. Naughty Dog didn't do it, but they did pretty damn well good of a job with Crash Bash, in my opinion. Crash Team Racing. Wasn't a huge fan of Crash Team Racing. I thought it was okay. I was always more into a Mario Kart 64. I was always a Mario Kart fan. I know a lot of people actually like this game, but I wasn't that big of a fan of Crash Team Racing. But I own it anyways because I want it in my Crash Bandicoot collection. I still need Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3. It sucks I don't have those games, but I'm a broke-ass motherfucker right now, so eventually I'll get Crash Bandicoot 2 and 3, but right now I don't have them in my collection. Sadly, but eventually I'll have them. Twisted Metal, gotta love it. One of my favorite series of all time. The first one I'm not really a big fan of. Wasn't a big fan of this game. I mean, I beat it multiple times. I still respect it because it's the original game, but yeah. Twisted Metal 2 was my all-time favorite. I mean, this game, everything from the soundtrack to the... I mean, it didn't have the best controls during the time. Controls are really, I don't know, not that great, but I could tell you so many stories with Twisted Metal 2. It would be insane, but here we have the Black Label one. I got this off eBay for $20. I had to rebuy it because this one's actually in pretty bad condition. It's really banged up. I don't even know how it still works, so I had to rebuy Twisted Metal 2. Right here, Twisted Metal 3. I know a lot of people, I don't know, some people were a fan of this one. When it came out, I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty good, actually. Nowhere near as good as 2, but 4 was definitely a better step up. I really liked 4's story a lot better. I think it was 4 or 3. I think it was 4 I liked better, the story. Gameplay-wise, it was a lot better. Kind of played more like 2, but Twisted Metal 2 would always be my favorite, but I still own them all because I'm a big fan of Twisted Metal. Vigilante 8, this is a great alternative to the original and second Twisted Metal games. If you enjoy Twisted Metal, you will love Vigilante 8. Oh, that was a fun game. This is another alternative, Road Trip. I used to call it Road Trip back in the day. Vacation 2012. It's funny, this game took place in 2012, and none of this actually happened in real life, because 2012 was last year, so we all know it wasn't the end of the world after all. This was a really good game. If you haven't checked this out, if you really enjoy Twisted Metal or car combat games, this is a great game to be found or bought off eBay or online or wherever else you can find it. Right here we have Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Love the first and the second Tony Hawk games. These two were the best of the series in my opinion. I mean, 3 was okay, but after I think it was when 4 came out, that's when I kind of really got out of Tony Hawk games, but these two will always remain a classic. Legacy of Kain, thing is with this game, I had it when I was a kid, and I totally forgot where I bought it at. And I remember I could never get into this game, but since I had it when I was a kid, something about it has a nostalgia factor for me. It's kind of a weird story how I picked this game up. I seen it in a pawn shop attached to a PlayStation, and the guy actually made me buy this with the PlayStation because he wouldn't not sell me the actual just game without the PlayStation. So I had to buy the PlayStation with the game in order to have this in my hand. It's not that really rare of a game. My friend told me it was rare, but he didn't know what the hell he was talking about, obviously, so whatever. I still bought it just to have it for nostalgia factor. SmackDown. Oh my god. The original SmackDown, fucking classic. If you are a WWF fan, you must have this in your collection. And if not that, then you must own SmackDown too, because this, to me, was one of the best WWF games of the series. I've always been a big fan of these games. Everything from the PlayStation 1 to the N64 wrestling games and the PlayStation 2. These were like the best of the series. I mean, I could go on about the PlayStation 2, WWE, and WWF games, but that's for another video, another time. WCW Nitro. Such a classic. I grew up with this game. I mean, it's really a horrible game. Gameplay-wise, it really is horrible, but it still remains a classic in my eyes because it has that nostalgia factor for me. You know, when I first bought it when I was a little kid, you know, watching Nitro and Thunder. So these games were actually, I'm not going to lie, they were pretty bad, but they're a part of my childhood. So you know what? Fuck you. I still bought them, okay? I needed them in my collection. WCW versus the World. Oh, yes. Wasn't that bad. Not that bad of a game. If you liked stuff like WCW versus NWO World Tour for the N64, you will love, I think you would like this game. They had a really big roster for the time. And they had a lot of Japanese guys in there, too, from, like, I think New Japan Pro Wrestling. This wasn't that bad of a game. It's ECW, but it's pretty much like Attitude and Warzone, and I'm not big of a fan of those two games. Thus why I don't own them. But Mortal Kombat Trilogy. This was one of my favorite Mortal Kombat games, actually, on the PlayStation. I like how they had like all the characters in this one, and the tournament mode in it was really cool. I've always enjoyed Mortal Kombat Trilogy. If you're a Mortal Kombat fan, thus I am, this is a must in your collection. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with this game. I mean, I mainly hate it, to be honest, because it's so fucking difficult. But it actually has not that bad of a story to it. I just wish it wasn't so fucking hard. I really wish it just wasn't that difficult to play and beat that fucking game. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, one of the best Need for Speeds of all time, in my opinion. This is the one I really grew up with right here, Need for Speed High Stakes. This was the first Need for Speed I ever bought. Always will remain a classic. I kind of like 3 a little better because it has more of an arcadey style and feel to it. This one was a lot more realistic driving-wise. But they're both classics in my eyes, but I think I like 3 just a little bit better, in my opinion. Duke Nukem Time to Kill. If you are a Duke Nukem fan, this is probably my favorite Duke Nukem game of all time. A lot of people like Duke Nukem 3D, but I actually enjoy Time to Kill the best. But 3D is definitely a classic on the PC. Right here, Land of Babes. Sequel to Time to Kill. I like Time to Kill a lot better, multiplayer-wise. One-player mode was a lot better in this, I believe. The story in this was a little bit better, I think, compared to Time to Kill. I can't really remember right now, but Resident Evil Director's Cut. Kind of sucks that I have the greatest hits version because I heard they actually remixed a lot of the music in this version. I have no clue why. So I plan on probably rebuying this and getting a different copy or a different version because I don't know. I mean, it's cool to have it, but I heard the music sucks in this version, so kind of pissed I got that, but whatever. I got it for $5. Resident Evil Nemesis. Wasn't too big of a fan of this one. I thought it was okay. I was more always into a Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4. Those were my two favorite Resident Evil games. Dino Crisis, the original, such a fucking epic game. I still need 2 in my collection, but 2 was more of an action-paced kind of game. This one was more like survival horror, so it plays more of like the old Resident Evil games. But I will definitely get 2 in my collection soon. Tekken 2, such a fucking classic! Such a classic. You gotta love Tekken 2. I mean, I remember playing this on a demo disc when I first got my PlayStation. I'm like, whoa, this game was very epic, Tekken 2. Tekken 3 was also very good. I was a fan of Tekken 3. I think I liked Tekken 3 a little bit better than 2, but 2 holds more of a nostalgia factor for me, since that was the first one I played. Rampage World Tour, gotta love Rampage. This was the Midway remake that came out in 97, I believe. Yep, 97. Also have this for the N64. Definitely a classic. Spyro's Ripto's Rage. I was always a big fan of the first Spyro game, because I remember as a kid I randomly rented it, and I ended up just loving the game. But these ones right here, Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon, I have them because I actually found these at a garage sale for really cheap, so I ended up picking them up. But I was always more into the first game. For some reason I can't find the first game anywhere, but eventually I'll have it. But I have 2 and 3 right here. Worms World Party. This is actually, if you watch another video of mine on my channel, I talk about all my Worms games I own. This was actually one of my favorite ones, World Party for the PS1. Eventually I'll get the first Worms back as well, because I still need to buy that. Tomb Raider 2, still need the first and the third game, but I have the second one in the series. Street Fighter FL3. This was actually one of my favorite Street Fighter games on the PlayStation. Such a huge, like, you can pick so many characters in this game. It gets a little nuts. I remember playing this game and my thumbs were sore from just like it's such a button masher, it's insane. Jet Moto 2, such a classic. If you don't like Jet Moto 2, you need to be slapped in your face. This was my favorite one out of the series. I didn't mind the first one, but the second one was always the best. Blasto. I don't have too much to say about Blasto. I mean, I rented it growing up, and I don't know, something about it I like, but it's not the greatest game of all time or anything. If you want more information on it, look it up. Area 51. This was the original arcade game. Definitely a classic in my eyes. Fighting Force. Fighting Force. I really liked the first Fighting Force. 2 was really different, I remember. I think it was more of a side-stroller kind of game. I think 2 was more of a side-stroller, but the first one was always awesome. I prefer the PlayStation version over the N64 one, because this one was actually made by Core and Eidos. And the music, I think, in this one was different. And the fact that you can save on a memory card really helps me out a lot with this Fighting Force. So I prefer the PlayStation version over the N64, but that's just me. But I also own the N64 version. Nightmare Creatures. If you like horror, survival horror, and action-paced, you know, kind of Dracula type shit, you will love Fighting Force. Or not Fighting Force, Nightmare Creatures. Blast Chamber. I originally played this on a demo disc with my PlayStation, if anybody remembers that, but definitely such a classic in my eyes. Such a unique game, too. It's very unique. Road Rash 3D. Road Rash 2 was my favorite of the series on the Genesis, but this one was actually really good as well. And if you haven't played a different one called Jailbreak, I recommend that as well. Still need Jailbreak in my collection. Street Racer. This game was actually a really, really rare game I could not remember for the life of me. This game has a big nostalgia factor for me. Just the fact that I rented this when I was like 7 years old, and I could not remember the name of this game for the life of me for about, I don't know, years and years after we played it. So I actually got this recently, bought it off eBay, so I'm so glad I finally found that goddamn fucking game, because I could not remember what the hell it was called. Pitfall 3D Beyond the Jungle. Fun version of Pitfall. Fun remake version. It's a lot different than the original, of course, on the Atari, but it's a pretty good game. Pong, 3D Pong. This was always a really fun one. If you like the original Pong, this was a good fun remake. Bloody Roar 2. I'm not even gonna lie, I've never played any of the Bloody Roar games. I found this at a flea market for $1, so I ended up picking it up. So I have Bloody Roar in my collection. Eventually I'll end up playing it. NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC. This was my favorite NBA. Like, out of the NBA Jam series, this was my all-time favorite. Specifically the PlayStation version, because this is the one I played. I also have it on N64, which is actually right here. This and NBA Hang Time was my shit, especially on the Genesis and the N64. Hang Time, that is, but this I actually like on the PlayStation. If you haven't played this game, I definitely recommend picking it up if you're a fan of the NBA Jam series, because that was my favorite. NFL Blitz 2001. This one was okay. I prefer the original NFL Blitz, though. And right here, we're going to be looking at my double disc type games, like Driver 2, Resident Evil 2, Worms Armageddon, Siphon Filter 2, stuff like that. Resident Evil 2, my favorite out of the series. If you have not played this game, once again, you need to be slapped in your face. Resident Evil 2 was definitely my favorite, actually one of my favorite survival horror games of all time. If you have not played this game, I don't know what to tell you, really, but buy it. Driver 2. Favorite driver out of the series. I thought the first one was okay, but I've always been into Driver 2. 3 was okay as well, but Driver 2, I think I actually did beat this game. It was hard as all fuck, but I ended up beating Driver 2. I think when I was like 11 years old or something like that. Definitely a classic in my eyes. The original Grand Theft Auto, and this comes with GTA London 1969. Also another classic in my eyes. I don't know, I mean, if you like the new Grand Theft Autos, I'm not sure if you're going to like this one, because it's more of a top-down kind of view, so it's a lot different than the other Grand Theft Autos if you've not played it. Worms Armageddon, definitely one of the best Worms games to get on the PlayStation or the N64. The N64 version goes for about $80 though, so have fun with that. Siphon Filter 2, not that bad of a game. I still need the first Siphon Filter game. And 3. And right here we have Metal Gear Solid. One of the greatest PlayStation games ever made. Even though I was more of a fan of the remake, because I think Twin Snakes is a hell of a lot better, in my opinion, on the GameCube. But I also own the PlayStation 1 version. So that was about it. This was my PlayStation collection. I hope you guys enjoyed it.